Turf Today is brought to you by Toro. When selecting golf course maintenance equipment, reliability is essential. That's why Toro products are the choice of golf courses around the world. They know they can count on Toro mowers, utility vehicles, and more to work. They also know they can rely on Toro for the innovations and engineering that blend high productivity with a beautiful course appearance. For products that get the job done, visit toro.com/golf. Toro, always solving, always evolving.
Look at that hair.
Yes,
I
this
think
old
that might be the first time I've seen you without a hat on this thing in a while.
could be, yeah. The fresh summer cut, so no more wings, which means the hats kind of go away for a little while, but got to do it every
Nice.
year. Yeah,
Nice.
it was like Sergei Bobrovsky after he won the Stanley Cup, he shaved his head. And they're like, "What are you doing? You do it once a year?" He's like, "Yeah, just reset. New year, new me." Okay.
The summer do. I love it.
Yes, sir. How was Detroit?
Good, man. Those guys can't catch a break though.
It's wet over
It's,
there.
yeah, I mean, every happens every year. Sam's first year, he came in and they had vandalism on two of their greens.
No.
So they had to basically completely, I wouldn't say rebuild, but I mean, someone just took Roundup and sprayed all over two greens.
Oh,
So
man.
they had to bring those back to life. And then during tournament week, they had a tornado rip through on like Sunday or Monday of the tournament, and all hands on deck getting all that stuff done. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, it was pretty nasty seeing some of the coverage, some of the videos of the rain and standing water and
Yeah.
stuff. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate,
Yeah.
but
Well, luckily they had they're doing a massive renovation right after the tournament. So they started doing some infrastructure upgrades over the winter, installed a whole new storm drainage system, replaced 18-inch clay tile with 30-inch, you know, ADS pipe and all that. And so it helped. It helped. I hate to see what it was like if they didn't do that.
oh yeah, that would have been bad.
Yeah. You hear us, Justin?
How you guys
Awesome.
doing?
Things are good. We're
Good.
glad to finally get you on. I know we've been back and forth a couple weeks here, trying to
Yeah,
free some time up and make it work. So we're glad to get you on finally.
yeah. See, I found y'all's podcast. I don't know, probably I don't know, a few months ago actually, and I've been hammering down on all the episodes over the past 4 months or so. Now that the golf course I'm at, I'm actually doing a little bit more working than managing, so I actually get time to throw in headphones and start listening to some stuff. So it's been
Nice.
good.
Nice. No, we appreciate that. How's the transition back to Louisville been?
The transition is the transition zone, so
Yes.
it's good, man. I mean, obviously, Brian, you met me down at PJ Frisco, and you kind of
Yeah.
understand what that operation's like, right? Just a massive operation, just a million different things going on, and then you come back to kind of I wouldn't necessarily say it's a country club, but a golf club. It's pretty low stress, right? A really nice membership, and we only got I don't know, we got about 10 to 12 guys here. 4 or 5 of them are part-time retirees, and they come in, mow greens, and leave. So it's definitely just it's a low stress environment to where we just kind of come in, get done what we needed to get done, and just start picking away at some things. And what we get done is what we get done, and the golf course is going to be here tomorrow, kind of thing. So it's good. It's definitely you kind of get back to your roots, kind of at a place like this versus a huge operation, kind of like PJ Frisco, which I mean I loved it down there too. It's really cool to be a part of a massive operation like that, but being back here, a place where I originally started, it's good to just kind of get back to your roots.
Ice plunges with Noah in the
No,
mornings.
no, I'm not that crazy.
That'd be an
I hate
early
both.
plunge too at the
Yeah.
shop.
No, he's up I think 4 a.m. and he's firing off texts before we even get in, and I think he's already had 2 or 3 ice baths by then. So I'm not I don't get into that.
Love
So
it.
coming back home, that must be really cool. Tell us about growing up in Louisville and getting into golf, getting into turf.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Louisville, south side of Louisville. Grew up a University of Louisville sports fan. My dad went there. I had some uncles go there. I lived 10 minutes from the campus, 10 minutes from Churchill Downs. So growing up in the city of Louisville, it's great, man. It's a big city, but it's also pretty small. Like everybody on our end of town, you couldn't go out to eat without seeing somebody that you knew at some point in time, whether you played sports against them or family friend or whatever it may be. But then so once I graduated high school, I decided I was going to stay home for college, and I actually went to U of L. and I studied sports administration there. And then I actually worked third shift at UPS to pay for school. Took me 6 years to graduate with my first degree. But UPS's headquarters is here in Louisville, so if you work third shift for them Monday through Friday, they'll pay for your school outright completely.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I did third shift for 6 straight years, going in at 11 p.m., getting off at 4 a.m., and then turn around and going to class at 8 a.m. for 6 straight years. So that that kind of instilled a certain work ethic in me, I guess you can say. Not a lot of people can handle that, and I worked with a lot of people and who did that program, and they cut out after about 6 months and said, "I'm done with this. This sucks," and they went the other route. So after I graduated from U of L, my first job that I got out of school, it was more geared towards sports administration. It was actually in stadium operations in minor league baseball. So I moved out to Colorado Springs, and it was a seasonal position. So it's kind of like an internship more or less than an actual job. So I moved out there. I started working in stadium operations for a team called the Colorado Springs Sky Sox at the time, which now I think they're called the Rocky Mountain Vibes. They're not in AAA anymore. They went down whenever minor league got rid of a bunch of baseball teams. But I was doing stadium operations, and I found out that that's kind of just being like a glorified janitor almost, especially at the minor league level. You're kind of just doing anything that breaks in the stadium, you're going to go around and fix it. You're doing a lot of parking management. If somebody were to spill something or throw up in the stands, you're the first person they call. Just basically, you're just sitting around waiting for a problem, right? Well, the head groundskeeper was actually the director of stadium operations as well. So the guy that I was working for, his boss was the head groundskeeper as well, and he could kind of see that I wasn't really necessarily enjoying it. So he actually halfway through the season, he was like, "Hey man, I can see that you're kind of spinning your wheels here. Why don't you come over and work for me in grounds?" I was like, "All right." I played baseball my whole life growing up, so I've taken care of baseball fields through high school and here and there. So I kind of got the gist of it, and I knew kind of what go went into. I knew the gist of taking care of a baseball field, right? So I jumped over and did the second part of the season on grounds, and I loved it. The only thing that was bad about it was just the hours that you work in AAA baseball. You're there all day, especially if it's a 10 game homestand. You're there from 8 a.m. normal business hours, and then you don't leave the ballpark till about 1 a.m. after the game's
Wow.
over and after you get done taking care of the field. So I did that for about 3 or 4 months towards the end of the season, and then once that season concluded, they knew that they were probably going to be either the team wasn't going to be anymore or they're going to downsize into like independent ball. And so I decided that I wasn't going to stick around for that because I didn't know what was going to happen. So that's when I decided to move back home to Louisville for the first time. And then is when I actually got a job here at the University of Louisville Golf Club for the first time. And that's when I first got my first golf course job. And that was for John Ballard when he was still here before he went to Valhalla. So I worked about 2 years under John. And then whenever John got the call to move up to Valhalla, while my time here with John, he kind of saw that I had a passion for this and I really enjoyed it and I was a hard worker, and he's the one that actually convinced me to go to school for this. He was like, if you're serious about this, you want to make this career, I encourage you to start looking at some programs, right? And so I took that and ran with it, and then that's when I decided to enroll in Penn State because I already had one degree. I didn't want to move away for school again. Um, it's expensive to move. And so I decided to do the online program at Penn State. And once Sean went over to Valhalla, he wanted to build his own career, right? There's always some transition in employees and management and stuff whenever a new guy comes in. And I was the first guy that came on board with John when he got to Valhalla as an AIT. So I spent another about a year and a half, 2 years at Valhalla under John. And then that's when I started looking as an AIT. That's when I started looking into. I was getting close to being done with Penn State, and I kind of felt like I was behind the eight ball a little bit. So I was trying to like kind of move up a little bit faster. Like I was kind of not necessarily chasing a title, but I wanted to just kind of like catch up to everybody that kind of went to a 4 year program and started doing this career right out of high school, right? And I was about 25 at the time when all this was going on. So I wanted to be an assistant. So I started looking around, applying to a few places, and then I went and volunteered at the Corn Ferry Championship up at Victoria National in Evansville, Indiana. Um, And the director of agronomy at the time his name's Nick Krasinski. I went and worked with him that whole week and enjoyed it, and I enjoyed him, and we worked really, really well together that entire week. I never met the guy, and I was hand watering and mowing greens for him, and he kind of just let me do my own thing that whole week, and kind of just trusted me on his greens, which was kind of crazy. Guy he's never met before, but he knew where I was coming from. He's like, "Here's a hose, you got the back nine, have at it." And so I handled my own, I guess, and then once I started looking for that assistant position, he had an opening, and so I reached out to him, and then he decided to bring me on as my first assistant position, and so I decided to move up to Evansville, Indiana. After that, I spent about another 2 years there, and then unfortunately, there was just I guess Nick didn't really necessarily get along with I think it was management that was there at the time. So they actually decided to part ways with him, which was very unfortunate. I was pretty tore up about it because I plan on being his guy really, and sticking around with him for as long as possible because I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him. So once he left, about 2 or 3 days later, I get a call from Bryce Yates, who used to be at Valhalla and is down at PJ Frisco now, and he knows Nick pretty well too. And I thought that he heard the news that they decided to let Nick go, and that's why he was calling me. Well, he didn't hear about that at all, and it just happened to time out perfectly that Nick was gone, and then we didn't really have a director and at the time, so I was like, I don't really know what my next move is. I don't know if I'm going to stick it out here at Victoria because I don't know who's the new guy that's going to come in, who that's going to be. So Bryce called me and asked me if I wanted to come down and be as a first assistant on the East Course of PJ Frisco, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So after that, went down to Frisco for 2 years, and then loved it. It's hot as hell down there. Like I said, a lot going on there, and I loved every second of it. But I decided to go off and get engaged, and my fiance is from Louisville too. She moved down. I was there. I was in Texas for 2 years. I lived there 1 year by myself, and then she moved down for a year as well. And then last July is when we decided to get engaged. And then we were just trying to figure out what we wanted to do with our life, where did we want to be long term, and all that jazz. And then it just happens that our lease was up in December, so we decided to make the decision to move back home, be close to family, and we figured it's a lot easier to plan a wedding from the town that you're getting married in versus 15 hours away. So we decided to move back here, and then here I am back at ULGC for the second time under Noah. So it's been a fun ride. I've hopped around a lot, but I've learned a lot along my journey.
How beneficial do you think it's been for you in your career to experience all those different places and work under different types of leaders?
I think it's really good. I know you guys have talked to a lot of different people on the show. Like, do you think it's more beneficial to stick one place under a mentor and learn a lot under one guy and find something that works really well and stick with it? Or do you think it's better, like you said, to kind of jump around and be under a bunch of different people and see a bunch of different viewpoints? I think they both have their benefits in this industry, right? But I think it's kind of it's so beneficial to have different viewpoints and see how different people do things and what works and what doesn't. Um, and I think if you can do it in a way, kind of like I've done it, to where every single time I've gone somewhere, it's because I'm either a better spot has opened up and or somebody has reached out to me, or it's just a better situation to where I can further myself in my career. It's not just chasing a title or chasing more money kind of thing. So I think if you do it in the right way, it's really beneficial to you to see different operations, different golf courses, being in different areas of the country. If you can afford to do that and kind of hop around in that way, I think it's really good.
No, it's a really good perspective. I know it can be scary, right? It's a big decision to have to leave with the unknown. You don't know the person you're working with, you don't know the golf course, don't know the
Oh yeah,
city you're moving to. It can be a lot. I know with hockey it was the same way. Those first couple moves are really tough, but then, there's so much experience and you're living in different places and meeting different people and seeing things for the first time. And in our
yeah.
industry, there's so many different types of golf courses. So getting all the experience, not from the people, but from the golf courses is so important. So just talk about how you've grown through all those different moves and golf courses.
I think every spot that I've been at, I've kind of come into that place with not necessarily a specific goal, but understanding where I lack in the industry, right? Whether it's chemical applications, knowledge of chemicals, mechanics, irrigation, whatever it is, you can go to a new place and kind of hone in on something that you don't really or aren't as aren't as beneficial in, I guess is the right word. So like you can go into a place where you have a solid chemical background, or you know how to spray, you know all the ins and outs of active ingredients and all that, but you lack in the irrigation spot, right? You can come into a new golf course without knowing anything and kind of just dive into an area that you aren't really that fluent in, and kind of just run with it.
So I want to go back to doing the Penn State online program.
Yeah.
Obviously there's probably some advantages and disadvantages to being on your own pace, doing online versus being in person. Talk through some of those advantages and disadvantages that you saw going through that program.
Yeah, I think obviously the first advantage is you can, like you kind of just said it, you can do it at your own pace, right? And I was one of the few in the class. I did the 2-year advanced certificate, so I didn't get the associate's degree because I already had a degree. I was like, why get another degree? So I was one of the few that was already an assistant in the program. A lot of it was like guys right out of high school, kind of like intern AIT kind of people. So I was one of the ones that like, seemed like had a little bit more experience under their belt, and kind of a lot of this stuff was a little not necessarily redundant, but I had a pretty good understanding of a lot of it that we went over. But it's good because you get out as much as you put into that program. I think you can either it's a program built to where if you really wanted to, you could go through all the slides, you can take the test and just get by with flying colors. But it gives you the opportunity to kind of get out what you put in. Um, I think if you're like in class, you kind of like are forced to do good, I guess, because if they can, teachers can dock points if you're not in class, right? You got to kind of put forth the effort. But I think the online program, it really, it puts you in a spot to get out what you put in.
I think one of the things that I've heard is when you're there in person, you can get a little more, I guess, hands-on in some of the education. But I mean, from the online, you were already getting that
Yeah.
hands-on stuff as an assistant, right?
Yeah, so I guess the guys that were doing this right out of high school who are probably just greenskeepers, right? They're probably just mowing greens and raking bunkers. Like a lot of it was probably really new to them. But yeah, that is one of the bad things. Like you don't really get like the irrigation classes, right? You're watching videos of students in class handle all the parts and the heads and all the pipe and stuff like that, and you're not really getting in there fiddling with it. But whatever you see through these videos, you can take it on the golf course. The next time you're digging up a head, it's like, oh, this is what a pilot valve looks like. This is what so and so is. These are where these wires hook up. So as you're, if you, I think it's really good that if you're doing the online program, you should be working in the industry actively at the same time, because you can take what you're seeing on screen and actually apply it out on the golf course. Because if you're just doing that program and not actually working on a golf course, it's just like watching a YouTube video. You're not really getting much out of it. But as long as you're actually taking what you're seeing on screen and applying it to it on the golf course, and it's really helpful.
That's a really good point. Basically living through it
Yeah.
24/7. So
hmm
we want to go back. I know you're a little bit younger, but any good John Ballard stories for us?
um, there was one time I was in AIT, and he pulled out the lily behind the tractor to do some rough fertilizer, and he wanted to calibrate it. And we had the big 2-ton super sacks, and then we had a pallet of the 50-pound bags. He wanted me to say, "Hey, go put a bag in the lily so I can calibrate it." Well, I decided to go grab the forklift and get the super sack and cut open the entire super sack in the back of the lily.
No.
He probably doesn't remember this. And I was all right, the lily's full. He said, "It's full?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "What bag did you put in?" I was like, "Oh, the big white bag." He's like, "Oh, all right." I have to figure out how to calibrate that now. Um, that, and then there was another time where unfortunately spilled a spreader on the right side of 3. Um, doing I think it might have been the same application, so it might have been just a bad week for me. But I stopped spreading and then walked away for about 3 seconds. I think I might have needed like a flag or something like that to keep flagging. And I come back and the spreader is on its side. And I come back in the shop and tell him that I spilled an entire spreader of fertilizer. And I thought he was about to fire me. But there's some
happens.
times where, yeah, there's some times where he can he can get in your ass sometimes. But John's great. He's, like I said, he's basically the guy that got me in this industry, and I know he means a lot to me and has helped me a lot along the way. And he's even helping me out right now. I'm working there in the evenings part time. So I leave ULGC and I go over to Valhalla and help them out. Just for some extra money, obviously, because weddings are expensive. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, so he's helping me out and I'm helping them out. So John's awesome.
So with all those guys that you've worked for, John, now Noah, Roger, Bryce, Nick, all those guys. I mean, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned from all the places that you've been and the people that you've worked for?
I think I think they all have their employees' best interests in mind. I think why they're so great is because they always have an open door. And anytime I've had a question about anything, I can always go to them and they'll take the time and kind of explain it. And they've just all been really beneficial to me. And I think they see whenever somebody is putting in, like I said, putting in what they're wanting to get out of it, they really kind of will take you under their wing. But yeah, they've all just been great, and they all have different ways of doing it. It's all different ways to skin a cat, right? Roger's different than John. John's different than Noah. Nick Krasinski's different than John. It's all different. They all have their different ways, and I've taken a little bit from each and every single one of them. And anytime I have an issue or I see, like right now, if I disagree with something Noah's wanting to do, I'll tell him why, and it's probably something that I pulled from Nick or pulled from Roger or Bryce down in Frisco. It's taking different theories and thoughts and just kind of like applying it to wherever your current situation is now.
It's the way to do it. A little bit from
Yeah,
everybody makes you better, and then you're able to pass it all on.
yeah, I can bring something up to Noah right now. He's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. He's like, where'd you do that? I was like, oh, Victoria, or oh, down to PJ Frisco.
Got all
So,
the experience.
yep.
So talk to us about the University of Louisville Golf Club. What does that
Uh,
mean? How does that kind of operated with the school, the town?
yeah, it's a golf course. It was built back in 1990, I think, and it was its own golf club for about 10 years or so. And then I think they're gonna get rid of it or sell it or whatever. But then the University of Louisville decided to come in and buy it. So the university owns the golf course. I work for the athletic department. I'm an athletic department employee. We have about a 400 membership, so it's pretty decent size. The weird part about it is we're out in Simpsonville, Kentucky. We're actually not in Louisville, so we're like almost smack dab between Louisville and Lexington. So it's a little bit off the beaten path. You just drive up 64 East, and it's right off the interstate. But it's a different relationship, really. Typically, you're working for a greens committee or an owner or something like that, your typical golf club. But here, basically, any of our decisions that we make, any of our capital projects, any of our budget, it all has to get approved by the athletic department on campus. So it's not, we can't just go to the membership here or the greens committee and be like, hey, this is what we want to do. This is how much it's going to cost. And they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. That's great. Here, we have to go about it in a savvy way to explain to people on campus who, at the end of the day, like they're running an athletic department. They don't really know much about golf course maintenance. They just know that we're out here. We're here for the golf teams, and we have to explain a lot of this stuff. Like, hey, we have two fairway mowers. One keeps breaking down every single day. We need a new fairway mower, so we have to go about it in a way of explaining it to them why we need this. Why are they going to spend X amount of dollars to help us out when you already got two of them? What's the issue? So it's interesting in that aspect. A little bit kind of a jump around every now and then, just try to get them to figure out and buy into what we're doing. The cool part about it is though, is we tailor to the golf teams pretty much specifically. Like our memberships out here, we do as much as we can to kind of get what they want out of this place. Like if we hear their complaints or whatever they want to do, like we try to do as much for them as possible. But really, if the golf team wants greens are on a certain speed, if they want certain pin locations a certain day, they want tees in a certain spot or whatever it is, they're the ones. This is their golf course at the end of the day. It's the golf teams. So they're the ones that we really cater to, and they have their own specific practice facility, which at one point in time was kind of like one of the state of the art collegiate golf facilities in the country. I think they built that, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, and it was state of the art at the time. But you see a lot more of these college practice facilities popping up, like at Arizona State and all these places that are state of the art now. They're ridiculous. And so I think we were one of the first ones to kind of have a specific golf course and a specific practice facility for golf teams here. Like they have their own locker room. They have bays with the trackmans and all that, and they have their own side of the range that they only have access to it. They had 3 different greens out there with 3 different grass types, so they can practice on throughout the year.
Wow.
Uh, so like in the day we have a typical fairway, we have zoysia, we have bent grass. So depending on where they're going to play, what time of the year, they can practice on each different surface that they want. But it's a really cool property. It's a really cool operation that we have. It's unique. It's not your typical just golf club, country club, where you're just taking care of the golf course and catering to members.
So my experience at college golf courses, there was sometimes some friction between members and golf team. Do you experience any of that there?
I don't really see any. I think a lot of
That's good.
the issue that we have is we'll have some members try to sneak back into the U of L, the team's area, just
Yeah.
because it's usually open, it's wide open. They'll try to drive their carts back there, and we'll have to remind them like, hey, this is the U of L's area. Do you mind just going back up to the member area? But no, there's not really any friction. Just every now and then they'll come out for a practice, and the coach will just it'll slip his mind, and we'll catch them on 10T as we're making the turn in the mornings. Like, oh, but then we'll realize it's the golf team. And I'm like, oh, it's okay, it's not a member. And then we just they'll hop around us. It's not a big deal, but not really any friction. I don't think the members really bat an eye that they're out here.
Nice. So how about you? Do you get to play the golf course at all? Or I know it seems
Yeah,
like you're pretty busy these days.
I am, but that's one of the cool things about this place too. Is a lot. Some courses can be kind of finicky about people getting out and playing the golf course, especially maintenance. I don't know why at some places there's kind of a stigma about letting maintenance come out and play. But here it's pretty much as long as there's an opening on a tee sheet, I can call up there and get on with multiple guests. So it's really cool. I like that.
Do you have some other benefits as a U of L fan?
Yeah.
Do you get access to tickets for football and basketball and all that fun stuff
Yep.
too?
I do.
Nice.
At one point in time, we had an Adidas discount. I think we still have it, but I'm not sure the
Nice.
status of it is. But yeah, I get access to football, baseball, and basketball tickets, so we can claim up to 4 total tickets for any game, minus like the Louisville Kentucky rivalry is super big, especially in basketball. Like you can't claim tickets to those because they want to sell all those. But pretty much any game we want, we can get on there and claim 4 tickets. So that's really nice. And then you get all the benefits that any university employee gets, which is good. So health benefits and all that are really nice.
Well, that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, so there's extra perks to it, really.
So do those perks then offset the headaches of being in the transition zone?
Yeah, sometimes like whenever the weekends that I have off and I'm going to a baseball game or in the fall and the winter when nothing's going on, and get to go out and get free tickets to the sporting events. Yeah, it makes up for it.
Talk about some of those challenges. And you mentioned all the different grass variety types that you guys are managing out there. That's going to be a tremendous headache.
I started in the transition zone, like Texas was kind of out of the norm for me managing Bermuda. Like I had never managed warm season grass at all when I moved down to Texas. So that was kind of a learning curve. But coming back up here to bent grass, tee to green, in the armpit of the country, really, it's kind of like riding a bike. You kind of come back after 2 years and you know what you're looking for, and as soon as the heat starts flaring up and green starts spotting a little bit, you kind of get right back into it. Our biggest issue is just labor, along with every other golf course in the country, right? We have a really small staff, so we have to rely heavily on our irrigation system in terms of the heat of the summer. Like this past week, it's been mid to high 90s pretty much all week with about 60% humidity. So we're fighting disease constantly. We have a pretty stout spray program that I've been on a sprayer 4 to 5 times days a week at some points in time. So we have to rely heavily on irrigation system just to kind of get greens and fairways and all that through the day. But whenever we're not spraying, it's good to get off that and kind of get a hose in your hand, just kind of loop the golf course here and there and see what you need to hand water and whatnot. And but yeah, so it's, like I said, small staff. It is cool to have that practice area with the different types. You can kind of play around with different things. We're actually, I think we're the furthest course north with a Tiff Eagle Bermuda green, if I can recall correctly. So that being said, this was a really harsh winter. It was out of the norm here. We had, I don't know, probably 2 to 3 feet of snow in about a month and a half span. I know, Adam, that's not a lot to you, but it is here. So I mean, we were covering our TIF Eagle Green and half the fairway with as much cover as we could, but we still had winter kill on that. So the week before I went down to Texas for the women's PGA, we tore that thing up. We've already cut it as much as possible, and we hand dispersed all the sprigs, and we're trying to resprig that green from the winter kill. So we get to do some fun projects here and there, and just going out, and it's cool to go out and mow zoysia versus bent grass, and um, get just getting to play around with different grass types.
Well, you talked about getting to have some fun and doing different projects. So, being a college golf course, do you guys do renovations? Is there ever,
Mm,
membership or golf course looking for changes and things like that?
The word renovation is kind of being whispered. I mean, this golf course is about 30 years old. It's the original greens, original irrigation system, original bunkers. So I don't know if that's just us talking about it and wanting it versus I don't know how far up the chain that's getting. But I think this place is in the next 10 years is going to be needing something, whether that's a resurface of fairways and tees to a warm season, just because the amount of spraying we have to do, it makes sense to switch to the warm season. Although we are one of the few golf courses left in the area, in the Louisville metro area, that are still cool season fairways. A lot of them have already transitioned to Zoysia. And I think everybody's just kind of following Valhalla's lead after they did it a few years ago. But resurfacing fairways, that's been whispered about. We need to go through and probably redo a lot of the bunker faces here. A lot of them are starting to slough off from just animal damage and just years and years of people walking on them, and uh, they're just kind of starting to erode a little bit. But we try to piece them back as much as possible whenever they do that, and put a good product out. But I think this place could use a lift in about 10 years or so. But that just again that would have to be approved by the athletic department, and that's a big commitment, big expense. So I don't really know what the athletic department, what their future is, what they see with this place. I don't see them selling it or getting rid of it because they are dedicated to the golf teams, and that'd be not necessarily a slap in the face, but this is their golf course. This is their practice facility. So I think they're gonna have it for the foreseeable future. But yeah, it'd be a huge financial commitment coming out of the athletic department's budget in order to lift this place up.
I could see you guys maybe doing the practice facility first, because I know for recruiting for schools, you got to be
Yeah,
competitive with all the other schools out there,
yeah,
right? So
that's
you might.
we know whenever they have a recruit on property, we hear about it. So they want the greens in the practice area double rowed. They want fresh cups. They want all the bunkers freshened up. They want it all mowed. So we know about it. So we'll flip our routine. We'll go do the entire practice area first thing in the morning on days they have anything going on, recruits or a camp or anything like that going on.
So I want to talk a little bit about some of your tournament experience.
Oh
You
yeah.
Yeah.
mentioned volunteering a few places, and I know you hosted a few when you were down at Frisco.
Yep.
What do you enjoy about tournaments, or do you enjoy tournaments, and what are some of the things you take out of those weeks?
So it's different going and volunteering versus hosting, right? It's two completely different things. When you volunteer at one, it's almost kind of like it's not necessarily a break, but it kind of is. You can kind of go just kick your feet up, just kind of take it all in and work a little bit here in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, and then you get the rest of the day off during the middle of the day. But hosting a tournament, it's a grind. Um, I mean, when we were in Frisco getting ready for the senior PGA, it was it was a long month before that. It was an advanced month. It was an advanced week. And just being back down there last week for the women's PGA, it seemed like they were the same way. Like uh, those guys were beat by the time we got there for the week, and I just had to keep telling them guys like this is the easy week. You guys, all the hard work's done. But it's fun. I enjoy tournaments. That was one of the things that I had to consider moving back here to ULGC. Obviously, we're not like a championship style golf course. We'll host a couple local events. They've hosted NCAA regionals here, but nothing to the extent of a major. Um, so like those days, like when we have events or whatever, like local tournaments, it's kind of just let's prep the golf course as much as possible, mow the fairways, mow greens, cut new cups, move the tees, and here you go, have at it. But when you're working at like Valhalla or PJ Frisco or even Los Angeles Country Club for these major tournaments, the weeks leading up to it are an absolute grind. But I enjoy it. You kind of go through the trenches with the guys that you're working with, and it sucks at the time, but then you kind of just like look at everybody and be like, it's not that bad.
You have the LPGA championship as well. What's that like?
It was fun. It's different. I mean, that's the first women's tournament I've worked. It was hot and windy. The reviews of the golf course at the end of the tournament were kind of, it seemed there was a lot of people that were not happy with the setup and how hard it was. But I think that course is just a hard course in general. Like it'll eat you up and spit you out no matter what the conditions are. I mean, the handful of times I played it, I don't think I shot under 100, and that's non-tournament conditions. But yeah, Roger and Bryce and Nick Zigafus, the superintendent, they got that place dialed in. I mean, they host a tournament every 6 months on either the East or West course, so it's kind of like with them. When we hosted the senior PGA at the time, that was our first major tournament. We opened the East Golf Course with that, and that one was kind of, all right, how are we going to go about this? And we had a lot of meetings of figuring out the logistics of it, and that's the hardest part about hosting a tournament, is just the logistics, like how we equipment, volunteers, you guys know the gist, what all goes into it, right? And just figuring out what's the best way to get through all that is what makes hosting tournaments difficult, I think.
So now, as an assistant superintendent for however many years, I'm assuming you're starting to think about, getting your first big gig. What do you think you still need to learn in order to make that jump? When do you know you're ready to make that jump?
I don't think anybody really knows if they're ready or not. I mean, I went through this process whenever I was moving back. I applied for a superintendent job, and I actually made it to the final four, and got the in-person interviews. And sitting in front of a greens committee was pretty daunting for the first time. And I think you don't really. I think if you know a little bit about a lot versus a lot about a little, I think you can put yourself in a good spot. Um, no matter what, you're always going to be learning something. You're gonna have problems where you don't know how to fix it, and you're gonna have to figure it out, right? Um, and I know the areas that I need to work at in terms of like golf course maintenance. Like I could use some more mechanical skills. I could use some more. I mean, there's so many products out there. You're never gonna know every product, every active ingredient, what to spray for what. And that's when you just got to rely on people to help you out, right? And building a network to where if you do have an issue when you're in that seat making the decisions, to be able to call somebody and, hey, I got this problem going on. Do you have any suggestions of how I can attack this or whatever it is? But yeah, so like going through that process and then finding out that you don't get it, it's kind of sets you back a little bit. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's the first superintendent job I applied for, and after not getting it, I talked to a couple guys, and they're just like, it's not that you don't have the experience, it's just that you haven't got that. It's the hardest one to get is your first one. And the golf course that I applied for was a country club right up the road, and they decided to go with an experienced superintendent already. I don't think it was anything that I did or did wrong. I think it's just people want experience, right? If they got a golf course they're having issues, I think they see somebody that has 10 years of superintendent experience, they're going to take the safe bet versus a new and upcomer, right? So I think being able to rely on your network is huge whenever you get in that seat. I don't think it's not knowing everything. I don't think that's an issue because, like I said, nobody knows everything, and you're going to have times where you got to figure stuff out. I think it's just being able to, if you're able to take the action to figure out the problem and get it done and solved, then that's worthwhile.
Say you've got a pretty solid network of people to rely on when that day comes. There's no question.
I would like to think I got a few names on my resume I can rely on, and I think I've kind of just fell into a lot of these spots. Really, it's all been kind of timing, just being in the right spot at the right time. I mean, I don't think I've actually actively sought out a job and fell into one. Really, it's kind of all it's been the network, right? Like John Ballard was one that got me hooked up with Nick Krasinski. Bryce Yates called me about PJ Frisco because I already worked with Bryce before, and I worked with Noah before. And like whenever I called him about this position whenever I moved back, but that's here and over there. But I've already worked with him before. It's relying on that network at the end of the day. If you can build a solid network, like people will reach out to other people for you, and vice versa.
Well, it's a lot of falling into it, but it's also a lot of them seeing what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like I have to keep reminding my son of that right now. He's a young kid. Oh, my dad's just going to take care of it for me. No, I can put you in the right places, but you've got to go in there and earn your way. And I think you've certainly earned your way. And I think that goes back to your time in college. I think you
Yeah.
certainly prepared yourself by going to college full time, working at UPS at night. You certainly trained yourself to be prepared for this industry. I think it
Yeah,
certainly
I don't
paid
think I've
dividends.
gotten used to the early mornings yet. I think if you do 6 years of third shift, you never get. I'm not a morning person. Pick the wrong industry.
And there's usually so much excitement too when you find a young, passionate person in this
Yeah,
industry. There's talk and oh my gosh, I got this good guy, and now everybody wants him, and you can't take him, but you want to be one of those people, right? So having those attributes is huge.
and being in a management role, like whenever you do like bring somebody on that's underneath you, and you can see that for yourself, then you almost kind of like gravitate towards that person's like, I want to teach this guy more. Like we had a few guys at PJ Frisco that I kind of took under my wing, and now they're AITs. They're AITs elsewhere. Same at Valhalla, and it's good to see like kind of taking people under your wing. Like if they have the same passion that you do, you kind of gravitate towards that. Because I mean, every golf course is going to have the guys that kind of just come in. They're just here for a paycheck, right? And they like working outside, but they're not. They're just here to pay the bills. But once you get a guy that's in here for the right reasons, you definitely gravitate towards that person. And I feel like that's kind of where I was obviously I had a certain drive, and I think I got really close with some really good people because they saw that in me, right?
What do you think makes a great superintendent, Justin?
Communication. At the end of the day, I think you could have the smartest guy in the world, but if he's keeping everything kind of to himself and just kind of making decisions on the fly and kind of has a closed door policy and just kind of tells you what to do and doesn't really explain why or take your opinion into it, it's kind of not necessarily a slap in the face, but you're just like, well, why are we doing this? Um, and it's difficult. But as you're communicating the whys and the hows and wins and all that, the ins and outs of everything, you can get past a lot of stuff, and it's really good to work for somebody that's explaining to you why we're doing so and so, or just even just like bouncing ideas off of you, right? I think if you have a superintendent that's willing to take your opinion into it, it helps move the needle on the golf course too. Because like at the end of the day, the superintendent's not going to make all the right calls. The assistants aren't going to make all the right calls. But if you're able to talk all those through in a group setting and figure out the best way to attack a situation as a group, then the golf course is going to succeed. Because two or three minds are better than one, right? I don't really know if I want it to be kind of high end or just kind of low stress, just country club vibe. That's kind of up in the air for me, just because obviously I'm at a point where I'm about to get married, and at some point we want to start a family, so it's kind of taking that into consideration now, and that was one of the big reasons I moved back, and that's my end goal. I just need to kind of decide where. And it's also kind of waiting to see what opens up in the area. This is the area that I know that I want to be in long term. So I mean, if the country club up the road opens up, and I hear that's kind of a sinking ship, I'm not necessarily just going to dive into that. It's going to be it has to be the right fit at the right time. But yeah, definitely, I want to be a superintendent. That's my goal.
What are the things you're looking for? I mean, what are those factors to be the right fit for you?
I think as somebody that's coming up and it's going to be their first one, I think you got to kind of take a look at the crew and the management staff that's already there. Um, if there's a solid management staff already there that you can kind of rely on to kind of get through the growing pains of coming in and taking over something new, that's really important. I think if you're your first superintendent, if you come in and you don't really have a solid like team behind you, it's just kind of sink or swim by yourself, really. So I think whenever that time comes, I definitely will take a look at who's already there and kind of keep an eye on like because I learned that through the interview process. I can kind of tell between the assistants that were already there, like who could potentially leave and who's gonna stick it out, and you want to kind of get a gauge on those people because those if you have a problem, those are going to be the guys that you go to first, right? The guys that have been there for a while, they know the golf course like the back of their hand, and those are the ones that are going to help you answer the questions at the end of the day.
Wanted to ask you about a fun story here. You guys, a Thursday morning of the PGA Championship.
Yeah. So I was running the back nine, and it was the first day of the tournament, and then I get a call from Roger, hey, meet me on 10 green. And I'll speed over there, and this is at like 6:35. Tee times are at 6:45, so they're already on the tee. I come up and Kerry Haig, Roger on the green, and he goes, hey, pin's in the wrong location. I said, what? I said, pin's in the wrong location. I was like, oh shit. So I had to call the guys over that were cutting the cup, and we got it figured out and found out that it was a pink slash white or white dot situation. They
No
were out there
way.
in the dark. Yeah, they were out there in the dark, and they thought it was. I couldn't remember which one it was, but they thought, the whiter the pink dot was whiter pink, and they ended up cutting the wrong cup, so we had to get that changed real quick. I think they were on the fairway like as we were walking off the green,
Oh my
changing that
gosh.
cup.
That
So
sounds like a USGA event.
yeah,
Close call.
Cuts right
it was
in
funny.
front of
So,
them.
yeah, it was the two guys that were doing it. They came back down for the women's PJ this past week, and they were cutting cups. But it was funny. Me and the guy that was our second assistant at the time, we did the cups on the back nine, and the other two guys they did the front nine this year. And I told them, I was like, well, if you guys got relegated to the front nine because you all decided to cut the wrong cup.
That's a little
So
stress right there.
yeah, that's a call that you don't want to hear because obviously it's you're an assistant, you're the last one on every green. It's a tough pill to swallow that day. It's just like, oh shit. How's the rest of the week gonna go? How did I let that slip?
Oh man, yeah, it's tough. So I
Yep.
want to go back to your interviews. When you're interviewing for that job
Mhm.
back in Kentucky, what are some of the questions that really made you think when you're going through that process?
I think whenever like during the in-person interview, I don't think there was any questions that like I kind of was like blown out of the water by and didn't really know how to answer. It's the process leading up to it, like preparing yourself for it because it's daunting, right? And the club that was hiring, they went through a search firm, so they had Armin Sooney and a bunch of big people that were in the process, pretty influential people, and just the amount of like questionnaires and insights to what they would ask. It's all kind of open ended, like expect questions like this. So then you're going through studying and getting all this stuff ready to go for these questions that you think are going to answer. But then once you get in front of these guys, it kind of just turns into a conversation, really. And I think they just kind of gauge you off that. Because obviously, if you get to that point, they know you know your stuff, right? You have references. I'm sure they reached out to people that I had on my resume, and I don't think they really want to know the X's and O's of agronomy because they see your background, they know that you know the stuff, they know you know how to take care of a golf course. It's how are you gonna transform this place into something? Obviously, we had a problem. How are you gonna change this place to something that we want as a country club, right? And then you kind of got to just revert back to your roots and let you know in terms of just detail oriented stuff and getting stuff done and the stuff that is easy to recognize that stuff's being done right. It's the easy things that people want to see changing right away. You're not if you come in as a superintendent. Radio's off. Yeah, I
Uh-oh.
think if you're not going to change a golf course in one day, right? And I think they know that. So the reason why they're looking for somebody new is they want to see something happen quickly, right? They want to see some change. They want to see the place moving in the right direction. So as long as you can decide like the direction that you want to take the golf course after looking at it, I think they just want to see stuff like that, and knowing that stuff's getting done.
Some really good advice for some of the younger folks listening to this, or anybody looking for their first job. It's not an
Yeah.
not an easy thing to go through. So that's some good
And I
advice.
was, yeah, I was fortunate enough where I've been on property before at this place. It's in the heart of Louisville. So I've played golf there a few times, so I kind of had an idea. It was a few years ago, but you get to go if you're coming from out of town, right? You'll go ride around the golf course one time before you sit down with an interview, and that's hard, right?
Yeah,
How do you build up a talk or a presentation of like how am I going to change this golf course after just seeing it for an hour? That's hard.
that's tough. If
Yeah.
you could go back and give advice to an 18-year-old version of yourself, would you? Or what would you say?
18-year-old me. I don't even know what I was gonna do. Um, you're not gonna learn everything in one day. Don't ever feel like you're behind the eight ball, and just work hard. People will be watching. If you're as long as you're working hard and showing that you care about what you're doing and just showing some initiative, then you're gonna be moving in the right direction. It's like I was saying earlier, like you get a new guy coming in, see that he has a drive and see that he cares about it. Management kind of gravitates towards those people at the end of the day, right? You know that you can count on them. You know that you can rely on them. You can give them certain tasks to where they can get something done versus a guy that's just going to be raking bunkers all day where I can't really trust this guy with something like that. But if you're showing that you care about it and that people can trust you and that you care about it, you're gonna be in a good spot long term. And
Nice.
if in terms of like actual golf course maintenance, I think figuring out what level, like obviously this kind of takes some time to understand, but what level golf course maintenance you want to be a part of at the end of the day. Do you want to be part of championships, high level, top 100 facilities, or do you just want to do you enjoy what you're doing at a local club and get off at 2:30 every day and enjoy the rest of your day and that's it and come back in tomorrow morning? I think the quicker that you realize that what level you want to be in, that kind of opens doors to what direction you want to go in.
At a place with somewhat limited staff, Justin, what are some of the things that you guys are able to utilize and leverage to get things done? And what are some of the tools that you're excited about coming down the pipeline that you see as being beneficial to a facility like yours?
So our staff that we have here now, it's actually, even though we're short staff, it's a lot of guys that have been here for a long time. So we have a lot of experienced guys on property that know this place really well. So even though we're short staffed, we can go out and get a lot done, and it's not really having to like these guys don't really necessarily come back after their first task and be like, all right, what's next? They understand really what needs to get done, and by the time we're done checking greens, they're already moving on to something else that we didn't even have to tell them to do. They see stuff, they pick up stuff, and then they can go and make decisions on their own. So we kind of give guys the freedom to do that, not necessarily have to manage them all day and babysit them and make sure they're doing what they need to be doing, which is really helpful.
Yeah, makes
Um,
life easier.
yeah. In terms of like what's coming down the pipeline, we're starting to kind of get into more technology here. Obviously, like we're on a very limited budget from the athletic department, so we can't really just go out and splurge on turf rads and GS3s and all that. We're looking into that stuff. Like we just got the new Perry weather station installed. We're getting involved in Task Tracker and Teledash and all that, the basic stuff. But so we're starting to kind of move the needle in that way, but we're still limited just financially, just because we don't get all the money that we really need, which is tough. But we're able to rely heavily on our guys that we have since they're all seasoned, and it helps tremendously in terms of day-to-day operation.
If somebody could gift you something or you could win something from a company, what product or machine or piece of equipment would you like?
It's a tough one. In terms of technology, it'd be nice to have GS3. They really would. I mean, we have TDRs and we just rely on the old fashioned stem, but actually getting that data of what we're looking like firmness, trueness, and actually get an accurate speed would be really helpful in terms of what we need to do. Whether we can hold back on water, whether we need to maybe verticut some more, maybe we need to pick up on top dress and whatever it may be. I think that would help in terms of data a lot.
So you've used those at some of the other locations you've been. Is that
I've
something that you're
I've
building
dabbled with yeah, I've dabbled with them. I've never been like just hand them just done it every single day because there's always been somebody above me that kind of takes the reins with that. But I know they're capable of like even all last week when I was cutting cups, I was there with the data guys the entire time while they're taking trueness and firmness and speed. So I know what they're capable of. It's just the ins and outs of actually working them. Another thing too, it'd be we're like I said, we're a small staff, so we don't have the people to actually walk mow greens, so we triplex everything here. It'd be nice to actually build up a staff and be able to get back to walk mowing greens and be able to take clipping yields every single day. We can take clipping yields. It's just a headache with a triplex. You got the three buckets. It's kind of a headache, but it's a lot easier to take them whenever you're walk mowing greens. You can put a bucket in the back of everybody's cart and give them a route and say, hey, collect them on these so and so greens or whatever it is. But now we're just kind of eyeballing clipping yields just to see where we're at in terms of regulation and all that. But I think if you have the GS3, you can kind of incorporate that data too, green speeds and all that in terms of what your speed is and whether or not you need to pick back up on regulation or not.
Usually leave the end of the show for you. So if there's anything you did want to talk about, it's wide open for you.
No, I think we kind of just reiterate the younger guys that are coming up, right? I think volunteering, getting experience, meeting people, getting on different golf courses, seeing different operations are so invaluable that it's hard to beat. I think people who kind of get stuck at the same golf courses, they can maybe get overlooked in terms of maybe a potential hiring situation. It's like, well, they only know this golf course, they only know this kind of grass, they only know this environment. But if you're able to go out and see different places in different parts of the country and different operations, it really can bring a different asset to a golf course that may be looking for somebody. Um, and I know it's hard to get out and see different places across the country. Like, not everybody can pick up what they're doing and move to Nevada or whatever it may be. It's hard. You have other things outside of work that influence where you're at. I mean, I was fortunate enough to whenever I was kind of moving around, I was still single, so I was able to get out. Oh, I got a job offer. I can go. Nothing's holding me back here. So it's hard. But a way you can do that is like you guys talk about all the time, is just volunteering at different tournaments and getting out and building up a network. Um, and who knows, that could end up being a job offer at some point in time. I know there's countless people who go and they kill it at tournaments, and then 6 months later they have an opening, and the superintendent, the director, calls that guy because they knew they did excellent work at the tournament. They didn't have to worry about them. They knew what they're doing, and hiring's hard now, but that's a way to kind of get your name out there and kind of showcase what you're doing. And
Nice. That's awesome.
yeah, I think if you get an opportunity, it's try to say yes to it, whatever it may be, whether it's a renovation, whether it's a tournament, whatever it may be. Um, I think if you have the opportunity to do it, say yes to it. That's renovations are the one thing that's to kind of backtrack, is I don't really have a renovation under my belt, and that's kind of like the next thing that I would like to add to my resume, is to be a part of some kind of construction build, whatever it may be, or where it. So that's another thing that I would consider in terms of like the next opportunity that I have come towards my way is what's the renovation? Is there a renovation? What's going on? So
There's a lot of them going on right now.
Oh yeah, I know. I think it's very important to just say yes to any opportunity that you have come your way if you're able to swing it, because you never know what's going to come from something, or who you're going to meet, or what's going to come your way.
I love that you recognize that, right? You recognize that
Yeah.
there's a need for something, and room for growth, and a renovation is something that'll definitely take you to the next level. So it's
Yeah.
always good to plan for that stuff ahead, right? On the course, you can't be
Yeah.
on the same day as the golf course. You got to be a week ahead of it or a month ahead of it, and planning
Yep.
what's going to happen. So it's the same thing with your career.
Yeah, it's crazy too. Just before I went to Victoria, when I was working with Bryce Yates at Valhalla, he actually asked me to come be an AIT down in Frisco when they started the build. And I told him, I was like, no, I don't even know what kind of grass I'm walking on right now, let alone getting into construction and building golf courses. But here we are, 2.5 years later, I'm working for him again. So it's crazy. It's crazy how everything's works, and you never know when somebody in your network's going to call you.
Absolutely. That's why you don't burn bridges, right?
No, no matter it works out or ends out. Just if you work with somebody that you know is pretty good at what they do, just reach out to them and keep that contact open.
Yep. Yep. Well, this has been awesome. Great advice,
Yeah, man.
great perspective. Appreciate you coming on and spending some
Yep.
time with us, and look forward to catching up with you here sometime again here in the near future.
Yeah, for sure, man. Appreciate it, guys.
Be good,
All right,
Justin.
buddy.
Take
Get
care.
some rest, eh?
Yeah.
I'll try.
Take care,
We'll
man.
see you, man.
See ya.
But
It's
yeah,
a good one today.
a lot of great advice for younger listeners and people kind of newer in their careers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's definitely got some experience. He mentioned it earlier. I met him a couple different spots. Met him down at Frisco. I think I saw him out of LA for the Open. Valhalla, he was there. Ran across him last year when I was in Minnesota. He was at Toro's assistants meeting up there, and so we keep crossing paths. And now he's working at University of Louisville, and the superintendent there is a friend of mine. He was in Ohio here for a little bit before he went over and took that job in Louisville. So we've crossed paths many different ways and are connected through a bunch of different other people as well. So good kid, bright future. So did a great job.
No, I really love how he recognizes, okay, I want to go to this course and work on my irrigation. I want to go to this course and do lots of spraying. And like that's so good for planning. There's a lot of people they get into a career, they're doing something, they're getting ready for something, and it's just like you don't have everything lined up properly. It's hard to do. And he seems like he's really focused on what I want to learn, what I want to take, and kind of how I'm going to go after it. So that's great. And if you get some renovation experience, which I can tell you firsthand, it's a whole new learning it's a whole
Yeah.
new game of learning. You know, you got all your basics and stuff, but then it's like, okay, we're going to do it all at the same time while the golf is going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a whole new animal. So I'm sure he gets a little experience there where he's going to be a guy that we're going to be talking about for years.
Yeah. No, absolutely. 100th has been a success.
Yeah, hundreds,
Lots of traction on that one.
lots of traction, lots of people reaching out, and lots of
Good.
positivity. It sounds like the new intro track's been